Hello bookworms, welcome to the Weekend Readers Book Club. Thank you for joining us. In this episode we are discussing the 340-page sci-fi book released in 2016, written by Blake Crouch, entitled Dark Matter. Now, this book right here, it's a sci-fi read, and I enjoyed 90% of the book. The 10% I didn't like. It's just personal preference because there's one type of sci-fi subject I dislike, as I sometimes get a little bit confused, and the thought process in relation to how everything intertwines gets a little bit concluded or convoluted. But we'll go into that as we discuss this. So this book here, literally, it's about a gentleman, Jason. He lives in a world where he has a wife, Danielle, and a son, Charlie. One night, after going to a bar, he's walking home and he gets kidnapped. The kidnapper asks him to strip all his clothes off and takes him into a remote, abandoned building, and from then, Jason's world completely changes. He wakes up in a place that he doesn't know, he doesn't belong in, but everybody knows him, and he's still Jason though. Jason has to try and figure out what's real, what's not real, where he is, and how can he get back to see his wife and his son. This book is a journey into parallel universes. The book does go more in depth in relation to parallel universes, and there are some great twists and turns along the way as you read this. The major storyline plot is actually very, very well written and remarkable in itself, because you question while reading this book what is real, what is not real within the story, but then the concept of the story itself could be related to real life, and then you're looking in real life going, can this, what happened in the book, happen now, and are we just part of a machine per se that's carrying along in the universe? It's a really well written book, and I thoroughly did enjoy it. The chapters in this book are a little weird, eh? Some of the chapters are, say, 10 pages. Some of the chapters are 2 pages. Some of the chapters are like 40 pages. But the great thing with that is there's no time in this book in the sense of, say, 9 o'clock now, 10 o'clock now, 11 o'clock now, 12 o'clock now, or the next day or the next day. There's no time factor in relation to the chapters, but the chapters have a flow-on effect in relation to time. So you read one chapter, that starts something, closes it off, and then you know in the next chapter it sort of carries on straight away. It's very, very well written, especially for the content matter of the book, which is a guy trying to get his wife and his son back via a parallel universe. Now, I will warn you, in the middle of the book, it gets a little bit sciencey in relation to explaining parallel universes. However, at the time in which it's being explained, the main character, Jason, has a sidekick with him, which is Amanda. So think of it sort of like Doctor Who. You have the Doctor and the sidekick. So Amanda's the sidekick. Now, Amanda isn't sciencey based in this book, so he does dumb it down a bit. And me, as a non-science person, I could understand the gist of what was going on, especially in the parts where they are describing what's going on from a scientific aspect. But it's a good read, and I would say, if you have not read this book, go out and give it a whirl. If sci-fi is your thing, have a go at it, because the twists and turns that this book takes you on, it's really, really enjoyable. I found myself reading chapter to chapter and I would space out how long I wanted to read for that particular time period, again based on how long the chapters were. I'd find myself reading to the end of the chapter where I bookmarked I'm going to stop, and I just kept on going because I wanted this, like, the story got me, and I just wanted to find out more. You could say that this book is somewhat an action book as well, because it goes 0 to 100 from the get-go, but in essence, the pretense is sci-fi because of the parallel universe. Now, there were two things I didn't like about the book. First thing I didn't like about the book is parallel universes. Now, you might be thinking, but you really enjoyed the book, but you didn't like parallel universes, but the book itself was about parallel universes. Yes, that's correct. I personally dislike parallel universes because, well, I get confused as you go into multiple parallel universes, put it that way. And the whole ripple effect on how it impacts every other universe when something happens in one universe by one person and so on. That just confuses me. I did find myself having to reread some dialogue just so I could fully understand it. Now, it didn't confuse me, this book. It was great. My personal preference is I just would have preferred it without it. But with saying that, I did enjoy it. So that's not a biggie. The only other, like the big portion of it where I said 90% I did like it, but 10% I didn't. The 10% I didn't like is that we don't find out what happens to the sidekick Amanda. Now, throughout this book, Amanda and Jason are travelling along, they have a tiff, and then they go their separate ways. That's cool, explained very well, but you never find out what happens to Amanda at the end. It would have been nice to find out, but in saying that, how the book ended was superb, because it was very, very, very well thought out, because it was the only way the book could end in relation to closing the arc and, in essence, starting again as a family. So, I won't spoil it for you, but it's enjoyable. But yeah, I personally just wish that we had more information about Amanda when they went their separate ways. Because, like Doctor Who, you get invested in the sidekicks. So I would probably say I enjoyed 95% of this book. Let's revise that. I enjoyed 95% of this book. The 5% I disliked was the parallel universes, but that's my own personal preference. You as your own reader may absolutely love parallel universes, and that's awesome, and that is okay. Everybody can read what they want. Everybody will enjoy what they want. However, the other 5%, well, the 5% was the parallel universes, and also the fact that we didn't get any closure on the Amanda character. Overall, this book, as I said, was great. From the very first chapter, it had me hooked. And it was go throughout. And as I said, I felt it was more actiony until you got to the parallel universes part. Then it got a bit sci-fi-y. So I can understand why it's sci-fi, but I thoroughly enjoyed it because it wasn't too hardcore sci-fi-y. It was a lot more action for me. If you haven't read Dark Matter, I would highly suggest for you to go out and grab a copy. Now, you might be thinking, I don't know where to grab a copy from. If you check the episode information of this podcast, you'll find the links there available for you to go through and purchase them from Amazon, and you'll be able to pick up a hard copy, paper copy, or even Kindle. So, again, overall, great read. Go pick it up. I'm glad that I read this book. Now, it can't go on my bookshelf because this book was a library book, so I have to return it to the library and let somebody else read it. But if I did own a copy of this book and saw it at a book fair, I would be picking this up and putting it on my bookshelf and allowing other people to come and borrow it and read it. It was enjoyable. Now, it is time to find out what the next read is for the Weekend Readers Book Club. The next read is brought to you by Fontytees. It's just fonts Fontytees, and more. Visit today at Fontytees.com. The next read for the Weekend Readers Book Club is Forrest Gump by Winston Groom. Now, I have seen the movie like probably 90% of the world. Tom Hanks. But I have never read this book. And this book here, I picked up at a book fair. I also picked up the sequel at the same book fair. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a whirl sometime. It sat in my box to be read. And it is now finally time to pull it out and find out the great story that got transferred into the movie that is Forrest Gump. So, we're going to read Winston Groom's book, and we're going to see how that goes for us. Category-wise, I don't know what to put it under. We'll find that out, and we'll drop that on the next episode. That has been our episode for today. Our recap of Dark Matters by Blake Crouch. Again, if you're looking to pick up the book, feel free to check out the links in the episode bio. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with our review of Forrest Gump by Winston Groom. And if you are following at home, feel free to follow what we are doing. We have a YouTube page, which is The Weekend Readers, where you will be able to find our podcast. Our podcast is also available on Spotify. And we have an Instagram account, which is Weekend Readers Book Club, where we will be putting up the books that we are reading currently for the book club and advising you on when the podcast goes live. So, from us to you, thank you. We'll see you next episode. And bookworms, happy reading.